Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, along with my co-host, Ed Carbajal. And on a weekly basis, we plan to bring you the biggest news and interviews in the world of combat sports. Ed, how you doing?
I guess I'm all right.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody was watching, but we just had the video cut out initially, so we're firing this back up. But so hopefully everything holds. I know you got that ridiculous weather always on the East Coast, so who knows what that's affecting, or I don't know. You got Chud crawling through the ground, chewing on
Yeah.
wires.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
All right,
So we were
so that
talking about Liddell Ortiz 3 and
yeah, so
the
that's
mixed
that's
consensus
yeah,
of it
that's the main
all.
thing. Pretty much gonna start over here. So basically, I was saying that the event overall I really enjoyed. Um, thought the prelim fighters and the the main card fighters all came to fight. Darian Wynn had a nice win over Tom Lawler. Um, Couple nice submissions, couple nice KOs on the undercard. And then once the main event rolled around, the anticipation in the arena was great. For the seats that they had available, it was probably 95% full. So I know the official attendance was almost 8,000, um, which is a little more than I expected, and actually made for a nice enthusiastic crowd. With two guys like this, you have big fans on both sides that are loud and really supportive of their guys. Guys people have been watching for 20 plus years. So and then that brought to the fight. And I was saying that I obviously Tito won by first round knockout about 4.5 minutes into the first round. Really blasted Chuck. Wasn't the most competitive fight we've ever seen. Chuck looked like an old man. Um, but you know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the walkouts. I enjoyed the atmosphere. Um, you know, if I was a friend or family member of Liddell, maybe I'd have a different opinion on it. But overall, I enjoyed the show, and I thought Golden Boy did an all right job with the event.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the card was over as a whole. I liked the card, and I liked. I didn't start watching it until Palacios got his victory. And so that's when I started watching the fight because my night was supposed to go a whole other way on Saturday. I didn't even think I was going to get to watch it. But I did wind up watching it, and I mean, like obviously people got some notoriety that wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. So you got Deron Win when he beat Tom Lawler, and I just mentioned Palacios. So it's just like there's some standout fights that I don't know, but the thing is, like, and I had mentioned it before. We lost the original time, the first recording we tried to do of this, but like there's people. Eddie Alvarez mentioned how like these guys gave so much to the sport, and he didn't mind paying his 40-50 bucks to watch it, and I get that. And then you got the other end of the spectrum where people were concerned for Liddell, and I mean, obviously I was it's hard. You shouldn't play both sides, but obviously, I wanted to see the fight. For some reason, I thought Liddell could pop him with something and drop him when they fought. But then after watching him do pull out that jab so slow, I know he said he felt good and stuff, but he didn't look good. And then to see him fall face first and take a shot when at 48 years old, with other people mentioning how they were concerned for his safety, like Dana White and like Hackleman. It's just like I don't know, man. I would prefer he stay retired, but like I said before, I think that's when we got cut off. You can't really tell professional athletes; they decide when they're done, really. So
Yeah, yeah. So I guess like my main thing with the reaction is just kind of like been the Monday morning quarterback situation where everybody can judge it after we saw it, and obviously, in hindsight, Chuck probably shouldn't have been in there. He passed all his medicals. He wanted to fight. He was fighting a guy he'd already beaten twice in his career, albeit 10, 12 years ago. Um, I just think that people talking about the saddest day in the history of the sport. In a sport where we've actually had people die in the cage, die in the ring. Douglas Dedge, the first guy who ever died in the sport, died in Russia on an open mat. Um, I just think that that's a little overreaction. I mean, thank God Chuck recovered, and and he wasn't fighting necessarily a huge puncher. That I mean, he got hit with a hard punch by a big dude, but I don't know. I just think that the overreaction. I think I see stuff, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people just for some reason, and maybe he's given them a reason, but people don't like Tito Ortiz. Um, and I'm a fan of both of these guys. I was actually happy for Tito that he won the fight. I feel like it's something that you know um, that's nice for him to get that I guess that revenge. Some could say it's a little hollow, but he went into a fight. If Chuck had won by knockout, I think the reaction would be a lot different. If Chuck would won by knockout, I think people would be celebrating, and I don't. If Tito went in there and looked like hell and got knocked out, I think people would it would be totally a different reaction than we're getting right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but I don't even know. It seemed like he's gonna start co-promoting on future Golden Boy events. I honestly, I guess we're gonna find out tomorrow. Usually Tuesdays when they report numbers for anything that happens on Saturdays, but I feel like this likely hurt the finances of Golden Boy Productions as far as promoting events go. I know they can make it back in any boxing thing that they do, but I mean, De La Hoya even Ortiz said it after in his post fight interview where he was like, everybody could give us a call, we'll try to take care of you. But then they posted the fighter salaries, and it didn't look like people that were on the undercard were making that much more than they would have made anywhere else. So
No, that was it's under their boxing you know, uh, way of their. That's basically what it was. It was basically a boxing event. You had the undercard where not many people were known, and then you had the main event where it's two big name guys. And um, if they did anywhere in the neighborhood of 200,000 buys, I know that sounds crazy, and I never thought that they would get there. Tito said, I think on the MMA Hour today um, that's what he was hearing. Again, that doesn't mean anything. Promoters lie, people lie to sell their business. But if it did anywhere around that, then Chuck and Tito are going to make a ton of money. So it's going to be the situation where the top guys get paid big money. So, when Tito's calling out guys to come there, he might be talking to a guy like Vitor Belfort or a guy like, Vanderlei Silva who could headline the card and make the big top end. I don't think the guys on the main card or the undercard are really gonna make big on something like this. I just I see when you see guys like Dana White, and I haven't seen his public reaction to this, but if he's out there talking bad about it, then it's a competing promoter. We're talking about a guy who put a 48-year-old Randy Couture in the cage with a prime Machida. We're talking about a guy who on the day of the fight announces Anderson Silva is fighting Israel Adesanya. You know, and I don't think Anderson's going to look like Chuck, but he might end up getting folded worse than Chuck. In a fight like that. So I just, I think there's a little bit of hypocrisy. I think, I saw Chael Sonnen was going after De La Hoya a little bit, and that's fair. If he didn't like how it was promoted and he thinks De La Hoya should stay in his lane, then then that's fine. That's fair. That's fair. But for somebody who 10 years ago put Couture in the cage with Machida, and I know Couture had been active and stuff, but he didn't put
I, I
Couture.
I think the promotion could have been a little better, especially where they had two press conferences and media didn't get to ask any questions. I think anything you saw outside of the initial horribly run press conferences was because media went out there and said, hey, give me 2 seconds.
Well, Tito did a lot of talking. Tito's always known for doing a lot of talking, so I think
Yeah.
he definitely probably carried that. Um, and I just it's just I'm always a fan of these smaller promotions. If there's a way for people to get paid, if there's more fights, if there's from a selfish point of view, for $60, I had the best seat I've ever had at an MMA event. So something like that, it can be there's something to be said for that. Now, obviously, that had a lot to do with the ticket sales dropping, but they had 8,000 people there, a little under, a couple ticks under it. I don't know how many were comped.
It
I
was
don't know
like
how
7,800 something. I
which
mean,
is
the forum sits 17,000, so I mean that it's got to be hurting their pockets, man.
Yeah, but they didn't
Uh,
have that part of the section stadium open. If from day one you're not selling those seats, I mean Bellator doesn't do much higher than that there. Bellator does like 9,000. So nobody's going, how Bellator doesn't sell anything. Bellator uses their stage to block off half the arena.
yeah, but did they do that? Did they do that in Golden Boy? I mean, I don't know. I didn't see that much. I mean, I know we still had a couple of interesting walk-ins and stuff, but I mean,
Yeah, but I'm saying if I go up to San Jose and Bellator has 7,000 people at a Chandler versus Benson Henderson fight, I mean, you just don't see the hate and the that you see for something like this. I mean, the upper, they never tried to sell the upper seats. They probably could have sold to some of them if they wanted to sell $30 seats throughout the entire arena. They probably would have sold a few thousand more. I'm just saying the seats that were available were basically sold out.
all
By the
right.
time the
I
main
mean,
happened.
but didn't you say it seemed like there was a lot of like friends and family of fighters there?
Well, but that's how all local shows are going to be, and that's basically what this
So
was, minus the main event.
yeah, I was gonna say. So did it have the feel of a local regional event, or like a did it feel like
Well,
if
for the for the
Ortiz
prelim
Liddell too?
for the prelims it did, but King of the Cage isn't drawing 7,000-8,000 people, so
But they're not booking the forum either, right?
no, but I've seen some smaller events at like the San Diego Sports Arena.
Yeah.
I don't know what other events are at the Forum. I don't
I don't
necessarily.
know. I mean, it's their first event, so I mean, we'll see. We just got to see what they do in 2019. But I mean, it just doesn't seem, even with all the effort put in, just doesn't seem like there's a real interest from De La Hoya to continue, especially since he wasn't even around at the post fight presser. I mean, I know like Dana. There's been times Dana White goes home, because he's pissed off or whatever his deal is. But I mean, it's your first event. You should finish what you started. At least stay till the end and address media and any other questions they have.
Well,
All
yeah.
the all the press conferences were weird for this. I didn't like them. It felt weird.
No, I get that, and I'm not going to sit here and defend De La Hoya. The guy probably shouldn't be doing this, but if he's going to do it, I don't. I think Tito Ortiz would be a fine if you wanted to let Tito Ortiz handle the Golden Boy, um, MMA side, and
Yeah.
obviously Tito's not the greatest public speaker, but he's Tito Ortiz. And again, maybe it's because I'm in Southern California and I've been around him since day one and seen him fight a million times live and and stuff. But I think the guy deserves a little bit more respect than the people are giving him. And like I said, if the roles were reversed and Chuck had knocked him out, um, I feel like Chuck Liddell would be you know being interviewed on Sports Center right now. And um, I don't know. I just think it's different. As far as them booking the forum, you know, um, the UFC has their Ultimate Fighter finale this weekend in a 2,500 seat arena. Does that mean I don't know. They could have booked a smaller place, but the Forum gives them a good price. It's a name event, a name arena out here. It's got the
Didn't they
history.
have some like insurance guys, big name? Usually you get like a big beer company or something. Like I'm just looking at the sponsorship. Like it doesn't seem like they tried getting many sponsors for the. It just doesn't seem like they're very invested into something that I feel like if he had gone a little harder, trying to push it to bring MMA fans and offer something up. I mean, he actually did better media when he did like his little Fight Hub interviews versus his own press conferences. You know what I mean? Like he did better interviews with one-on-one smaller people, man on the street type of situations than his own press conferences. But I mean, outside of that, the guys that fought on the undercard, I mean, that fight with Tom Lawler and Deron Wynn was awesome. I'm glad Ricky Palacios got a win on some place where I had commented on Twitter about it. People were like, "Who's Ricky Palacios?" And I'm like, this guy fought for Combate Americas. I already knew this guy was going to win. And who else got a nice win on that card? Somebody got a choke right when I started watching it. I forgot.
Well, James Barnes
Yeah.
had a nice armbar submission. beat UFC vet Alberto Morales.
Hmm.
Um, Jay Silva got an arm triangle choke in a little bit of a slow fight, but he got a finish. Gleison Tebow had a fair, it wasn't a great fight, but it was a competitive fight with Efren Escudero, a couple UFC.
Yeah,
Um, like I said, the event overall wasn't bad.
yeah. I like the fights. I liked all the fights except the main event one. I didn't want to. I felt weird after watching it. You know.
Do you think you would have had the same reaction if Tito would have been limping around and Chuck would have knocked him out?
I mean, if Chuck would have knocked him out, it would have been something like it would have been almost like poetic and like this guy still has it. But the thing is, leading up to it, nobody thought that. You know, everybody was concerned for Chuck Liddell right up until it happened. You know, like I don't think it's that people are hating on Ortiz so much as it is people are just it's the rhetoric of Chuck Liddell being done fighting and the concern for his health had been out there way before there was even a Golden Boy MMA thought. You know what I mean? So I mean, I don't know. I guess my own opinion is I was hoping all that would have been wrong, and I was hoping there was a right hand. Chuck had a right hand opening there all night, but he never took it.
No, he said he was afraid of the takedown, and you know, I don't know. I'm not going to try to do much of an analysis on that fight. We all know what we saw, and it was obviously not top shelf uh, competition from Liddell's side. Um, I do think Tito looked good. He does seem to be healthy. I know he's slower. He's 43 years old, um, but I think you know. I don't know. It's a weird situation. Like you said, it's hard to tell somebody they can't do something. I see people bashing the California Athletic Commission, whether people are like it or not, and I don't necessarily always like it, but the California Athletic Commission is one of the best commissions in the country, if not the best.
Yeah,
They're really working on the weight cutting stuff. Um, he's not going to get easy medicals here. He's not. We're not fighting in a barn in Iowa. Um, so all that stuff. I think the people attacking that. I think the people. I know a lot of the people around Chuck didn't necessarily want him to fight. But you can't if the guy wants to fight. I think really the problem here is probably as much as Dana White might have been correct about it. I think stopping somebody and holding somebody's career basically up um, might have led to this. He might have got knocked out one more time 8 years ago, and that would have been enough.
yeah.
I don't. Sports are violent. Football's violent. Hockey's violent. These sports are violent. We watch fights. We watch 80 fights a weekend, and guys are getting
I,
knocked out. And
I just hope he wasn't hurting for money and he did this for money. You know what I mean? Like I know he made 250,000 for the fight, so I just hope that it's that's one you don't want to hear these like you always see these horrible stories for like boxers from back in the day where they spent their money bad that they're boxing into their 50s and freaking garages and shit.
I
I
don't
don't
think
want
that's the case. I don't have any special knowledge of stuff. Um, but what I do know. I mean, I have a couple mutual acquaintances, and I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that he just actually wanted to fight again. I think he thought he could beat Tito Ortiz again. He thought it was a chance to make some good money. I think when it's all said and done, I wouldn't be surprised if he walks out with at least a 500,000. I mean, I don't know what the pay-per-view buys are going to be. We're never going to know the exact number, but um, I
yeah,
glanced at
how do they
Twitter.
measure fight TV buys? That's a good
Yeah, but I
question.
guess it was on regular, Direct TV and all that other stuff too. So, I was trying to explain to somebody. I guess if you live in the middle of Mississippi or something, and you see Tito Ortiz try Chuck Liddell on Direct TV, maybe you order the fight. It just seemed like Twitter. A lot of people were talking about watching the fight. I
Yeah,
saw.
like last minute. I noticed that too. Like there was a lot of last minute. Like screw it, I'm gonna order it. And like I said, Eddie Alvarez, he put out his opinion of like I'm gonna order it because of what these guys did. It's worth my 40-50 bucks, and I agree with that too. Like I said, I was looking to watch it by the time I finally jumped in and watched it, but I was just like, I wasn't like I had a completely different night planned, and because of the weather sucks here, I wound up being home on Saturday, And even though I watched UFC Beijing's last 3 fights in the morning before I went to training, I was looking for a fight Saturday night. We're fight fans, so
Yeah.
we'll watch a fight if it's on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me the conclusion was, it kind of is what you thought it was going to be. Um, I, obviously would have liked Chuck to look better. I'm glad for Tito. I enjoyed the event. I think they overshot the ticket prices coming out the gate. I think they overshot the pay-per-view price. I think there could be some adjustments, and I think if they're able to get, um, if they want to have kind of a senior league, I think that it's there. I know Bellator's slowly backing away from that a bit, um, but I just I don't know. I enjoyed it. And if they do another one, if I hope it was successful, I hope it comes out that they sold 200,000 pay-per-views, and I hope Chuck and Tito make a ton of money off of the fight, and I hope there's enough to keep a funnel of money coming for some MMA guys, and if they're able to, I mean, this wasn't their 200th show, this was their first show, so if they made some money, maybe the undercard guys start getting paid a little bit more money, and the more events for me, the better. So I don't know. I obviously hope that Chuck is able to fully rebound. He's obviously had some knockouts, but I just say it was good for Ortiz. I think the arena enjoyed the fight, the atmosphere. I know a bunch of people online said that
This is his second time retiring, though. Didn't he say he was retiring? So like now he's retired. Retired after Bellator, and he got that win over whoever. Who do you?
Chael.
Chael was the last fight for him. No,
Yeah, 2 years ago he beat Chael.
I thought he fought again after that.
No, that was his last bout.
Huh.
January of I guess 16, maybe 17. Yeah, I guess 16.
I mean, I'm only a few years younger than Chuck, so I guess that's why I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe it was January 17. So it's been almost 2 years. Um, you know, uh, I don't know. There's fights for Tito to be had. I think he could sell some tickets and and make some money fighting Vitor Belfort again. I think he could
Hey,
fight.
that'd be something Belfort probably be into.
I
I didn't
think
even think about that.
I think a Vanderlei fight would sell. I still think a fight with Rampage could potentially sell. Um,
Hmm.
I think Tito's got a few fights. If he's over his injuries, if he's finally kind of healed up, he's going to be slow and getting older. But I think there's that for him. But
Yeah,
if he
I mean,
walks away, then
yeah, I mean, we thought he walked away, so who knows? He said he was done at the post-fight presser, that there was no one else left, so we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, like I said, no one can really tell these guys when they get that itch, they come in. I mean, obviously Liddell was done for a while. We thought we'd never see him fight again, and he fought last Saturday. So, but I mean, that's what makes them different from us. Like it's easier for us to say this is starting to hurt me. Let me stop versus that they're just they're different types of people, and that's why we put them on the pedestals we put them on. So like I don't know, I just don't want it to come off like we're knocking them, especially Chuck, because I mean he's definitely one of the guys that I looked up to coming through, being coming from Kempo karate, and a striking arts guy that was able to hold his own in the game for as long as he did. So it's definitely, I don't know, you just don't want to see them get hurt too bad. But a comeback would have been nice, but it is what it is. But we had some comebacks at the UFC Beijing in that morning. Did you get to watch those?
I didn't wake up for the whole card. I woke up and watched the co-main and the main event. So I saw Alistair Overeem
Yeah,
continue to do his thing. TKO finish of Sergey Pavlovich. Um,
man, that sounded like it hurt. Like the audibles on that when he did that ground and pound, the first punch, that first right hand was just very you almost felt Pavlovich quit in that first punch.
well, Overeem's just a damn beast. I mean, you
Yeah.
talk about somebody who's, you know, um, he went through the USADA, wave.
Yeah, he's
Um,
just a mammoth of a man either way.
he was a
Yeah.
beast before. He's still a beast after. I mean, physically, he's not the same creature that he was prior to the extreme drug testing. But he's one of the greatest heavyweights and one of the greatest MMA fighters of our time. And I think he really needs to start to get that kind of recognition. And um, I'm not sure who he fights next. I saw on Twitter today he called out Derek Lewis, so that could be
Yeah,
entertaining.
Derek Lewis, and he said he'd also like to because obviously Ngannou picked up a win that on that card too, and he said he'd like to run that back, considering that's one of his worst losses because the way he got knocked out there. So
Yeah, yeah. Ngannou knocked out Curtis Blades or TKO'd him 44 seconds into the first round. Yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see the Lewis fight, something fresh. I'd hate to see Ngannou knock his head off again. I don't think it would go like the first fight per se, but
it's
you
definitely
know,
the safer fight, but you never know. I mean, even though Ngannou won, I don't know. I mean, good stoppage, bad stoppage. I mean, obviously he was falling forward, but he kept trying to grab for a single leg.
I didn't
Uh,
like it. I didn't
yeah,
like it, but you know me, I tend to be a little bit judgmental of the referees occasionally. I thought Goddard got way too happy. I think he made contact with Ngannou before he even stopped the fight. I don't like the referees that rush in there and get all body with when the action's still going. If you're gonna step in, stop the fight. Otherwise, step back and let the fight finish itself. Um, I Blades didn't really argue it. I guess he kind of did, but he didn't. It wasn't an eccentric. He didn't really go over the top complaining. But I don't know. For me at that level, you just gotta let the guys go a little more. I know we're talking about Chuck getting knocked out and worrying about guys' health, but I feel like that's what the sport is. You want to be protective of guys, but it's a damn fight.
I
You
mean,
got
I mean, obviously we're not the referees and we're not in there yet. They have to, fighter safety has to be number one. So they have to once they move on their instinct, they can't withdraw that. You know what I mean? So, but Liddell is not the same guy that Blades was. Like Liddell fell and didn't even catch himself on the way down,
Oh,
whereas
yeah. I'm not comparing the
yeah.
stoppages. I'm comparing the fact that Liddell got knocked out and we're worried about his health, and but with Blades, I'm thinking that you got to let it go a little far. It's a fight, and I just feel like I don't know. It's a fine line. We've talked about it before, but I just I don't like seeing fights stopped with guys on their feet or when you're allowed to try to take a guy down. The fight
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
end.
I was definitely on the fence about it. Like again, I mean, once a fight stopped, it stopped. But I thought I felt like Blades was a little bit warranted in his initial reaction of protesting the stoppage because he wasn't completely out. And so the whole reason I brought that up was because I know Ngannou was like all happy I'm back, but I'm like, you know what, like you're back, but I mean you're not, knocking dudes into another, plane of consciousness back. You know what I mean? So maybe the fight against Overeem would be all right, but the safer fight for Overeem is probably against Derek Lewis.
I just think I like the fresher fight. I don't know. The rematches are nice but their first fight was a landslide for Nagano, and it's Overeem, so he deserves the benefit of the doubt when it comes to rematches, I think. But I like the Lewis fight. Ngannou, I would like to see fight the winner of Tuivasa and JDS coming up. When is that in
Well, that's a good, yeah.
something like that. I'd like to see some fresh fights. So I think that would be a good matchup. Um, I know we're hearing rumors of Stipe versus Kane. Obviously, Ngannou has no reason to fight Stipe. Um, at least I don't have any interest in seeing that again right now. Um, and like I said, if Lewis fights Overeem, then that's basically what we're left with. I don't know what Ivanov's doing. I know he had a tough loss to JDS in his last fight, but Blagoy Ivanov. I'd watch him fight Ngannou. I'd watch him fight Overeem.
Mm.
I know he's not necessarily ranked as high as those other
What
guys, but
What do you think about that fight this weekend with I mean that's probably the most intriguing matchup, Tai Tuivasa and JDS. Like I think they have last I looked, I think JDS is a favorite in that.
yeah, but that's not this weekend, isn't that in? I don't think that's till Australia, isn't that UFC? Uh,
Oh yeah, no, I'm just asking because
oh,
I was looking at I think I was looking at Go Face Off or one of those like sites that list odds, and they had him as a favorite, and I was kind of like I was like, I don't know, man. I feel like like talking about I mean, when we started talking about guys like Liddell and Ortiz, And I think I mentioned it last week. I know for sure I mentioned it on last week's episode that there's definitely a changing of the guard in MMA, and the guards seem to be changing faster.
I think Dos Santos can win that fight. I know Tuivasa's had his moments and as a killer, but I think JDS can. I have to see them standing next to each other. I feel like JDS is going to be going to have some reach. Um, I don't know. I lean towards him. I think if he fights smart, it's a fight he wins. And by smart, I mean he just doesn't go balls to the wall. He actually boxes and I think he wins the fight if he does that. If he goes into an all out brawl, then it's obviously whoever hits who first.
Mhm.
But we talk about this weekend. It's the Ultimate Fighter finale, and I haven't really been, I've glanced through the Ultimate Fighter shows, but there's not enough there. I think this season is a bit of a joke when you have
Yeah. I
I watch the fights. I skip through and I watch the fights, but when it's 145-pound women and you're seeing nobody that could even last 30 seconds with Cyborg, I um I don't know that. And then half the women are 135 pounders, so that's a little bit strange. But and then the heavyweights again, um, some good fights and a couple good fighters, but I don't see anybody who's contending with any of the top contenders that we just talked about. And obviously they're up and coming guys, but I feel like if you win that show, you should be able to step in within a couple fights and be able to fight somebody in the top 10. And I don't see that out of this class this year. But the main event is Rafael dos Anjos and Kamaru Usman. You know, pretty damn good fight. What's your take on that?
uh hold on. I just gotta moderate some jerk off here in the channel. uh you said it was Usman and who?
And RDA Rafael dos
Oh
Anjos.
yeah, I like Dos Anjos all day. I mean, that's because of me going. I go with my fanboy instinct right away. I mean, I know Usman is definitely coming up there, but I don't know. I feel like Rafael dos Anjos is I feel like he's just coming back up. Like I don't know. I feel like he's coming back up on a second wind or something in his career. Like he changed camps or whatever. I know he had some injury issues, but I don't know. That's just where I'm at with. I like RDA. It's hard for me to pick against him.
Yeah, I hope he wins. I like watching him fight. He's exciting. I have a feeling Usman's going to do what he does, and he's going to turn this into just a grind out, um, boring fight. I really think that that's what's going to happen over 5 rounds, unless Anyos can catch him early and hurt him. I unfortunately, if you put a gun to my head, I'm saying Usman wins a fairly uneventful decision.
Yeah.
In a fight that could be really exciting if
I
they
don't
both.
know. I feel like RDA could probably surprise us. I don't know. It could just be me being hopeful though.
Yeah, like I said, I'm pulling for him. I just and I just I feel like I've seen Usman do that so many damn times now, and I haven't seen he hasn't fought a million times, but it seems like every time he fights somebody who could be a potentially real exciting fight.
Wasn't he the backup guy for a recent event?
Yeah, he was the backup for the apparently for the Woodley
Yeah.
Covington fight, although Woodley said he wouldn't take the fight anyway. So I don't know, but yeah. So I unfortunately see that. That's on Friday night. It's a weird weekend where we have two events on Friday. We have a UFC and a Bellator event on Friday night. Um, and the Bellator is Bellator 210. Um, not a huge named card, but a real deep card for them. Guys like Joe Warren, former champion, Joe Schilling, um, and then a surprising bout, Daniel Weichel, two-time title contender against Goite Yamauchi, um, submission ace on the prelims. Um, but the main card that night is Shidi Ninja Kawani and John Salter. Salter stepping in on a bit late notice for Melvin Manhoff. Um, do you have any take on that main event?
Uh, I feel like I know I've seen. I know I like an. I can't even. I don't want to mess up his name.
In Jaquani?
Yeah, I know I like him a lot. And Manhoff's taking some damage over time, so I mean, I know he puts dudes away, but his losses of recent just stick out more to me. So it's just kind of like I don't know, man. I just feel like it's concerning when he fights. He's another guy that I worry about. If he gets knocked out, it's going to bother me.
You
So
know, and
I think I like I'm going to say Cheaty because I keep ruining his last name. I think I like Cheaty in that one.
and here I am snoozing on it. The reason there is a Friday night is because UFC is Saturday night. The UFC Australia card. It is Dos Anjos and Tuivasa this weekend. I don't know why I was getting crossed up with the Adelaide. This is Adelaide, and then I guess they have the pay per view coming up in a couple months too. So real quick, we got some studs on this card. Dos Anjos Tuivasa, Mark Hunt, Justin Willis, and Tyson Pedro versus
Yeah,
Shogun Hua. So you know, it didn't really gosh, there's so many fights going on, I can't even keep track. But
yeah,
God, what a weekend. I did
yeah,
we get to watch Shogun, Mark Hunt, and JDS fight again on top of those Friday night cards. So shoot, well, we'll be talking about those when I get back next week. I'm gonna be out of town for the rest of this week, but
yeah. That's why we're doing this preemptive episode tonight instead of midweek like we normally do. But um, yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, I don't got anything else left to talk about. What do we got? There's another Bellator this weekend too, isn't there?
well, that's 210. We talked about that, the Inja and
Yeah,
Salter. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
think
So
I think Salter's going to win that fight. And Inja a little more exciting fighter, um, but I think Salter grinds out a win in that one. And then I mean, we're just throwing it down. I'll take JDS. I'll take. Whew, I hate picking against Mark Hunt, but I'm going to say he loses to Justin Willis.
yeah,
And
I think that might be his
and
time.
I'm also going to unfortunately take Tyson Pedro to beat Shogun Hua. I hope both of those fights end the opposite, but um, I think we might be getting to the end of the run for Shogun Hua and Mark Hunt as far as being top of the food chain fighters. I hope that's not the case, but I think that's where we're headed in the near future.
Yeah, I agree. I guess. I mean, I know you say you don't like picking against Mark Hunt, but I don't think I think Mark Hunt might have already was is that how many isn't he done with his contract soon or that's like one of the last fights?
I think so. I think this might be the last one, and then ideally maybe he goes to Ryzen. Um, him and Crow Cop would be a hell of a retirement fight, maybe a dual retirement fight for both of the guys. Returning back to Japan for New Year's would be something that I would be a big fan of. But we're gonna throw it out there. I'd watch Mark Hunt fight Tito Ortiz. you so so who knows? There's always some possibilities, and that's the great thing about having more organizations is
Well, I mean, I'm kind of glad you got out there last minute to watch the fights. I mean, I think you said it. You said it last week. It's like, how are you not going to watch Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell fight in your own backyard?
yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's two legends. I might not necessarily want them to fight, but if they're gonna fight, I'm gonna be there supporting them. I'm gonna give them my dollar. I'm gonna chip into the communion pot, or the not the communion pot, but the pot going to them. And if I helps them out, if my $60 to go to the event goes in their pockets, and then more power to it. I hope, like I said, I hope the pay-per-views did well, and I hope there's another show. Why not? But
Yeah,
it doesn't hurt. It's nothing's. You know, Obviously we don't want to see Chuck Liddell fight again. Like I said, I don't know if it got cut off, but although I would watch Chuck and Hoist Gracie fight, you know, I think that potentially could be an entertaining
yeah,
fight if Chuck feels the need to try again. But with that said, have a great rest of the week. Our fans can follow us at Combat Hour on Twitter. Myself at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Can follow you at Carbazol on Twitter and at Carbeerzol on Instagram. Um, Hey, have a great rest of the weekend, and got a lot of action coming up. I'll be talking to you this weekend, and if anything crazy happens, maybe we'll jump on and give a quick reaction.
Yes, sir. You be safe out there.
All right, I will. I gotta get to go deal with the cold up in Idaho, so
All
get
right.
a little flavor of what you got. So I'll talk to you.
All right.